I'm Todd for G66. Welcome to another Tuesday Tone Tip. We're on the FM9 again today, and I had a few questions from last week's video about layouts, in particular using the per preset layout. So I thought it might be nice to take a look at a couple of ideas that I use from time to time when I'm not using the live layout that I detailed last week. If you haven't watched last week's video, I will link it in the video description. Essentially, I went through and I built a layout that I would use for my main live preset on the FM9 from scratch. If you're not familiar with that one, well, I'll show you the layout, but first, I've got this kind of like 90s Van Halen inspired preset up here. I'm using the Solo 88 lead based on the Soldano X88R. Some people know that Eddie used an SLO 100 for a little while before going to PV with a 5150. This is just an inspired by preset. It's not really designed to sound like it. I've got a PV Wolfgang here using my go-to cab IR, and I'm using a PEQ just to boost a little bit of high end with a shelving filter at 3K. There is, of course, the London plate reverb. We get this. That's the starting point. I've got a couple of other scenes on here. The next scene kicks in this dual chromatic pitch block, which is not doing any pitch shifting except for a small amount of detune on here. This one is from my blocks library. It is matched to an old Eventide H3000. You can see the very slight delay time on voice number 2 over here, and the kind of secret sauce is turning the pitch tracking off and playing with the tracking parameter to kind of get the funky old rack style behavior on there. That gives us this. Sounds humongous. We're going to talk about a few other effects in here in a second, but the layout that I'm using, my main live layout, I put on layout number 8 over here, essentially uses 4 scenes, scene 1 to 4, and then the hold function gives me scene 5 through to scene 8 over here. I had a control switch set up as a momentary control switch to control a flanger in my other preset, which is also in this preset. Then I had some parametric EQ and a boost set to a control switch over here, as well as the pitch block. So one thing that I could do, you'll notice in my preset, is that I have a few extra blocks like a graphic EQ, a second delay, and a phaser. If I wanted to activate any of those from this layout, but I didn't want to change the layout across any of the other presets, I could use per preset overrides. And the way I would do that is I would go FC per preset. Let's set up, say, the phaser over here. So I'm going to select effect, and I'm going to navigate to phaser over here. We're going to use phaser number 1. So I've got this per preset switch pointing towards the phaser. What I need to do over here is say, well, I'm not using a control switch boost in this particular preset, so I will override this layout with the per preset override down here. We'll go per preset number 1, and now that is set to a phaser. Just for this preset, it doesn't change across my other presets. So if I want to, I can switch that button on and kick in the phaser. Sounds pretty sweet. So I've got that, I think, just set to the script 90 in there. A kind of Van Halen phaser style sound in there, not a lot of mix. I believe I got this block from my good buddy Nicholas, who helped me dial in a bunch of these other blocks. It should be in the blocks library, and it should be on the forum as well. Shout out to Nicholas, because they're a legend with these type of blocks. The other thing that I've got in here is a graphic EQ setup for a boost. So what I could do is go to the per preset menu over here. Let's go per preset number 2. We'll set up a graphic EQ over here. So I'm going to select effect. I'm going to select graphic EQ from this drop-down menu over here. I'm going to change the color so that it's, I don't know, maybe green or something that's different to this default blue over here. We'll go to FC edit, and I don't have my kind of pickup compensator fattening parametric EQ in this preset. Again, reference last week's video. So we'll override this one. We'll go per preset number 2. And now this is set to be a graphic EQ that I can kick in. Just give me a big front end boost. that's just one way I would use per preset overrides to just tweak a layout for a live preset. If I wanted to go whole hog and have a completely different layout though, there is a default per preset layout on the FM9 factory layouts. And the way I've set it up over here is that I've got per preset number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 as the 6 bottom buttons on here. So this particular layout, if you don't have any per preset overrides, will be blank because you haven't assigned the per preset override. So you will see that it says function placeholder. What that means is it's just holding a place and waiting for you to define something in the FC per preset menu over here. So let's go all in on this one. And I've got the phaser as my per preset switch number 1, the graphic EQ as per preset switch number 2. There's a bunch of other effects in here. I've got a flanger, which I've set the bypass to a momentary control switch. I mentioned that last week as well. So I might put that control switch as a per preset function. Then I've got a mono tape delay to kind of do the echoplex style thing in front of the amp. I've got the graphic EQ. I may as well have the pitch and then this other delay, which we'll talk about in a second, setup for the kind of like 90s Van Halen Roland SDE thing, and then I've got a reverb. So let's go through here and we'll go to the FC per preset. Remember, these 6 per preset buttons are assigned in this layout to these 6 switches across here. So let's go in and define those. I'm going to go for the, well, we can put the first delay in there, which is actually delay 2, the echoplex style thing. So we'll go effect. I'll assign this to delay number 2. And if I wanted to, I could give this a custom name, like I could call it EP or something like that. In fact, let's do just that. I'll call it EP for echoplex. And now I've got my custom little switch on there. I'll give it a color. Let's go with, let's not go with purple because I've got something else that's purple. Let's go with pink on there. That's a nice color. To remind me that I've got a delay right there for my per preset number 4, let's go in and assign that to a control switch, that momentary control switch that we were talking about before, CS4. I've got that on there. We'll go with a lovely shade of teal for the color there. I want to have my dual delays on here next. So we'll go to effect, and that was assigned to delay number 1. We'll come over here, we'll go to delay number 1, and I could call this, give it a custom name like, we'll just call it dual delay. I'll be real imaginative on that one. Or dual del, we'll see if that one fits. Let's see if I can actually fit delay. I can fit delay on there, fantastic. I'm gonna assign that one to the color red, and then we've got an extra switch on here. I might just assign the reverb on there because it's nice to be able to switch that on and off as I like it. I'm essentially going for like a pedal board style layout on here. So I've changed all of this up so that I can just switch individual effects on and off rather than use scenes, because why not? Why not do something different and have some fun with this particular preset? So what did I say this was? This is the reverb. Fantastic. If I look at FC Edit now, you can see in here that I've got these switches assigned. I didn't assign a color to the phaser over here though, so I might actually do that. And let's go with orange for the phaser. There we go. So now my bottom row of switches are these different effects which only apply for this preset. If I go to a different preset, these, unless I assign them, are going to be blanked out. So let's say I had a preset that I was using for acoustic guitar and I had a compressor, I had some kind of like, tape emulation, and then I had the functions of the looper. I'd have those on there for my acoustic preset, but when I switch to this preset, I've got all these individual effects on over here. So I could go through and I could turn things on one by one. For example, I'll show you the main layout while I do this. Turn my reverb off and on. The reason I like this is it is more flexible than, say, defining a particular layout that will work for one preset or most of your presets, but then having to modify that with placeholders on a different preset. This way, you just go to the preset and you use the per preset layout and you totally customize it. So the way you can think about this is this per preset layout, the way we're using it, turns each preset into a totally different rig. It's like swapping in totally different pedal boards or totally different rack rigs if you're that way inclined per preset. I personally like the override approach because I like having one layout that is more or less consistent across all of my presets, designing my presets to suit that layout. And then, if I want to bring in, say, a phaser in one preset and then a flanger or a chorus in another preset, I can do that with a per preset override. But I think this workflow will be great for a lot of people. Just to finish, before we go, I want to talk about these dual delays on here. I had a few questions over on my channel. I did a demo of the new Boss EVH delay that had come out, and some people asked about delay settings. So this is what I've been doing in the FM9, the AXFX, and the FM3 to replicate that. There are pictures out there of Eddie's rack with the dual SDEs where he's using these delay times, 798, 398, there's a few other ones out there. You could just go 800 and 400 and that's totally fine. Feedback I've got set for the longer delay to 20%, and because this shorter delay is about half as long, I've doubled the feedback over there. Mix to taste, just done a little bit of EQ in here, low cut at 80 and high cut at 8K, kind of cops the SDE thing. No modulation, but of course you can add modulation if you want. And in the more section, I just turned the bit reduction up to 12 to kind of cop a 12-bit style delay. You can play around with turning the compander on and off. I think it sounds pretty cool, but it's not necessary in my opinion. So that combined with this dual detune on here is just massive for a lead sound. It is a little bit different to a ping pong delay. A ping pong delay will go one delay tap on the left, another on the right. In this case, you get your short delay. In this case, I've panned it to the right, so over here. And the long delay will happen roughly at the same time as the second repeat on the short delay. So it is a subtly different thing on there. You can play around with delay times where basically it's like whatever this time is, this one is double it, or double it plus a very, very small offset. But I think it sounds pretty cool. I'll let you hear it with and without. I posted those settings up on the forum as a block and a preset if you want to grab it. Otherwise, let me know if you have any other questions or requests for future Tuesday Tone Tips in the comments section below. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Take it easy.